All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show, guys. I want to talk to you. I want to elaborate. There's been some new news, and I'm going to get to some of the hearings. There were some great hearings today with Pam Bondi as AG. I'm going to focus on actually Pete Hegseth a little more. I want to get into that. I have some video clips that I want to play for you earlier this week because I think they are very important. I want you to understand what the left is trying to do. Everything that you're watching on the Hill has to do with political theater and trying their best to destroy the Trump administration. I believe the goal of the left, the more that I think about it, the first 100 days of a presidency is absolutely crucial. And so what I believe the left is trying to do is I think as much as they possibly can, they want to stall any of these nominations, and Biden is signing these executive orders where Trump may have to go into court for some of these things. And I believe the goal, I think I'm seeing what the left is trying to do. The goal is right now to get past that 100-day mark, get to a point where Republicans are nervous to act and do anything. And then you have the same old status quo in Washington, D.C. The left can blame the right, for getting nothing done under the Trump administration. I think that's kind of what we're seeing. But I want to take you to a video. There's some more news that broke on the California wildfires. And let me just say this, and I've posted this out on X. Please follow me on X, all things social media, at Carl Jackson Show, X, Instagram, and Facebook. If California is to receive any federal aid, and which they will, there needs to be stipulations, right? There needs to be conditions. I think that Karen Bass needs to go bye-bye if they're going to give any federal aid to California. I think Gavin Newsom, the same thing. He needs to go bye-bye. I don't care if that's through a resignation or recall, but I believe that should be tied to any federal aid. I understand that states have states' rights, but when you're asking for our money for your incompetence, I think that is a different story. And then when it comes to jungle primaries, I think that's another thing. Listen, the people in California deserve fair elections. Jungle primaries, ranked choice voting, all of these systems that exist in the primary, and states, again, they can do their own thing. But since they're begging for federal aid money when they were so incompetent, and when, frankly, many of the voters, I'm sad to say, but it's true, voted for the very policies that wound up setting California on fire, quite literally, there needs to be some conditions because we can't have the same type of incompetent morons that are leading this place. So I think they need to end the jungle primaries. I think they need to get rid of Karen Bass. I think they need to get rid of Gavin Newsom. I think these are things, just as a start, perhaps, that needs to be negotiated, or that need to be negotiated if we're going to give them any federal aid. Also, when it comes to their water supply, I think they need to figure out a system where they're going to use the process of desalinization for their seawater. I mean, they're right by the Pacific Ocean. I mean, this is Pacific Palisades, for God's sakes. So that needs to happen. There's just got to be stipulations. And we're talking about the desalinization of the water. I mean, that needs to happen. They need to get rid of these. I mean, they have to clear the brush. All of these things that would have prevented a mass wildfire needs to occur. Any of the green legislation, all of this stuff, all of this nonsense, these regulations that are preventing California from being the golden state that it used to be, need to be reversed. That is the only way I would allow federal aid to go. And I would even do that incrementally. I would make sure that what was it? Gavin Newsom said he was going to clear 90,000 acres of brush and do some controlled burns. Okay, after you get that 90,000 acres done, you get the first batch. Right after you start letting water flow so that farmers can have water, we're not dealing with the Delta smelt and we're not dealing with the salmon, then you can have water back. Now, here's why I say this. I want to play a video clip for you. Guys, this is absolutely baffling, and I'm going to share some new news with you, and then I want to move on to Pete Hegseth. But this is video clip number 26, Gabe. Let's go ahead and roll that. I want you guys to understand that there was so much incompetence that I'm now adding another name. That is the fire chief out there, the Crowley. Forgive me, I forget her name. Her first name slips me right now. But she needs to be fired too. This is a lady that focused and prioritized DEI instead of having the right workforce. And now we found out, courtesy of the New York Post, listen to this. The Los Angeles Fire Department bosses sent just 5 fire engines to the Palisades fire while holding back 1,000 firefighters and 35 trucks in the critical, first hour. So LA fire bosses deployed just 5 firefighter trucks to the Delhi Palisades fires until it was already out of control, sending just 5 of the 40 available fire engines and holding back 1,000 fires. This according to a new report. So the fire chief needs to go bye-bye as well. This is an absolute, this is just a disaster. Here, let's play video clip number 26. Your jaws are going to drop in disbelief, but I want you to hear this because you this is just so unbelievable, but let's play it. Clip number 26.
See any response until 45 minutes after they called 911.
It's hard to believe, Elizabeth, but I wouldn't have believed it either until I saw the video. Michael Valentine, he's a former U.S. attorney for 8 years under Kamala Harris. He and his wife, they live at the top of Pacific Palisades right next to this ridge line where the fire broke out. He says his wife called at 10:29 a.m. Tuesday morning. That's when they first saw it, and they didn't see anybody come for at least about a half an hour, 45 minutes before they dropped some water. He documented it all on video, giving News Nation an exclusive look of where it started and how quickly it grew. By 10:50, the plume had spread considerably, twice as large. 8 minutes later, the size of the fire seems to have doubled yet again. Still nobody fighting the fire. At 11:13 a.m., nearly 45 minutes after Michael's wife called in the fire, you see a chopper come through. At 11:23, a helicopter comes in, begins to dump water on it. But at this point, the fire is massive and moving quickly down this ridgeline.
Oh, incompetence all over the place. So now you have Crowley, the Los Angeles Fire Department chief, that has to go. All of them have been trying to save each other's jobs. But this is a total disaster. Any aid given to California needs to be tied to their resignation into doing the right thing, clearing the brush, doing the right forest management, the desalinization of water to protect Pacific Palisades. That just needs to happen. This is insane. All right, now I want to move on to Pete Hegseth. So Pete Hegseth was on the Hill, and obviously we had Pam Bundy on the Hill, and Pam Bundy is going to be confirmed. I think she's a slam dunk. Senator Marco Rubio, he's going to be concerned, in my opinion. I think that's a slam dunk. But I don't necessarily think that Pete Hegseth was a slam dunk. I now think Pete Hegseth is a slam dunk, and I'm going to show you video as to why. And it's video that I'm sure that you've seen. But first off, I want you to understand why the left fears Pete Hegseth. Here's some of the things that he wants to do. He wants to restore America or America's armed forces to war-fighting capability. The left doesn't like this. When you sit and think about this, the left thought that they had the military on their side. I mean, they bought into this DEI wokeness. They implemented this. You have today. I didn't even realize this, but our military forces today have 47 generals as compared to 4 that we had during World War II. You guys realize we have not won a major war since World War II. I know there is some debate with Vietnam. I actually believe that we did better than people speak about oftentimes, but I just believe that politics played in that war so much. It was horrific, but nonetheless, it's easier to say, listen, a major war in theater. World War II was the last time. We did see Operation Desert Storm, George H.W. Bush. We've seen the Cold War with Ronald Reagan. That was a different type of war, obviously, a buildup of military strength, peace through strength. So we saw that type of win. But World War II type of victory, when we go out in political theater, into military theater, we've not seen. I think Pete Hegseth could bring that back. And I really think that Pete Hegseth does exactly what Trump does. Trump represents freedom. Pete Hegseth represents freedom, but he also recommends, or both of them represent, a threat to the establishment, whether it's the Democratic establishment, whether it's the Republican establishment, and Pete Hegseth's case, whether it is the military-industrial complex. Again, The military has been used as a petri dish, in a sense, for the left. And that's going to be over. Everything, it's like whatever the left wanted to try. They tried it in California, and they seem to experiment in the military and try it there. Those days are over. And they know that if Pete Hegseth gets in, a lot of these people are making a buttload of money off of the military, and they have no interest in winning wars. We see that with Russia and Ukraine. Biden has come out and he's tried to take credit. He's trying to take credit for this Israel and Hamas, this apparent ceasefire deal. Had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with what Trump said at Mar-a-Lago. And he wants to go out as a good foreign policy president, but he simply wasn't. All you have to do is look at Afghanistan, Iran, Chinese balloons flying across America. We'll be back. I'll wrap this up. Here for MyPillow, and MyPillow is excited to announce that they still have their Christmas extravaganza going. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, but they won't last long, so get them while you can. They're famous My Slippers. These haven't been on sale for over a year. They're regularly priced at $119.98, but for a limited time only, they're $59.98, and their 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities. They're only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone. From bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-858-0263 and be sure to use promo code Carl to save on all MyPillow products. That's promo code Carl. Flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. 6-piece towel sets for as low as $29.98. And that's not all. They're even extending their 60-day money-back guarantee all the way through March 1st of this year. Plus, all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code Carl. All right, welcome back to the program. This is the Carl Jackson Show. Follow me on all things social media at the Carl Jackson Show. So like I was saying before the break, the left, actually the establishment, they fear both Trump and they fear both Pete Hegseth for the same reason. These people are not only, they're a threat to the left for sure, they're a threat to the lofty goals of the globalists. The establishment can barely stand Trump. The establishment can't stand Pete Hegseth. This is not how they do business anymore. They don't want war fighters running the military force or the Department of Defense. They want politicians, and essentially that's what they've gotten. You guys might recall Stuart Scheller. For the sake of time, I'm not going to share the video, but Stuart Scheller was a brave lieutenant colonel, and he's written a book, and I interviewed him. I forget the name of the book. Forgive me, Stuart. But he was the one that sounded the alarm of realizing after the Afghanistan withdrawal, 13 service members killed at Abbey Gate. One of those service members he knew very well, and he risked his career. He lost his career, as a matter of fact. He was jailed, as a matter of fact, because he said, listen, there needs to be some changes at the top. We need to hold these people accountable. And as a result of going on YouTube and posting this video, he was dismissed of his duties and he was arrested. All right. But now the people are understanding that we need more people like Stuart Scheller. We need Pete Hegseth. We need them to lead our army. We don't need the politicians that are just looking to climb the promotional ladder. That's not going to work anymore. It hasn't done us any good. Like I said, we haven't won a major war in theater since World War II. I mean, this is insane. And then we're talking about qualifications. This is a qualification. Well, I'm sorry. The people that have been running the military haven't done such a great job. I mean, literally, we gave billions of dollars worth of equipment away to the Taliban. So China could end up, they're sending or selling pieces or, to China, and where China is reverse engineering this. This is insane. This is insane. I want to show you some videos, and we got to go through them pretty quickly. So I'm going to cut some of these off, Gabe. But first off, I want you to understand this is why Pete Hegseth is going to be confirmed. Let's roll clip 28, please. This is Pocahontas, a.k.a. Senator Elizabeth Warren, gets embarrassed pretty quickly. Let's roll it, Gabe.
In other words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals.
See, this is Pocahontas. This is honestly, this was probably the worst case scenario or the best clip out there, frankly. But the truth of the matter is, none of these people on the left were serious. None of those Democrats on that particular committee, the Senate Armed Services Committee, were serious about our national security. If they were serious about our national security, they would have been calling Joe Biden out over the Afghanistan withdrawal, over China traversing these balloons, spy balloons across the United States of America, Joe Biden's fecklessness that allowed Russia to invade Ukraine, just like happened over Obama. There's so many things. Funding Iran while Iran is funding proxies to attack Israel, our ally in the Middle East, from Hamas, Hezbollah, and to Houthi rebels. These people aren't serious about national security. They're serious about securing their power. And that isn't happening. And they see it slipping away. They see this military industrial complex, this money and this control where they control the guns, where they control the power. They see that slipping away. They see a man that loves America and Pete Hegseth, a man that loves America and Donald Trump. And they don't understand what that feels like because they don't believe in America as we know it, as the founding fathers found it. It's insane, but this is where we're at. So Pete Hegseth wants to do several things, and I'm going to play a couple more clips for you. But he wants to do several things, and let's talk about these. The National Interest wrote a very compelling column, and I think they hit it spot on. So obviously they went after those Democrats on that committee, went after Pete Hegseth. They went after his moral failings, and I'm not condoning any of those. But the guy has gotten right with his wife. The guy has gotten right with God. And I think the guy is the right warrior to lead the Department of Defense. And I think that's very crucial. And I think they know that. I really do believe they know that. They're not serious people. Mark Wayne Mullin, Senator, called them all out. He called all of them out for their hypocrisy, and we'll show that in just a second. But here's 5 things that Pete Hegseth could do that has not been done under the current administration, and they need to be done right away. First off, they got to restore accountability. This was in the National Interest, a very good column written by a gentleman at Heritage. By firing long-term bureaucrats, they got to get rid of long-time bureaucrats, senior military officers who have failed to focus on lethality and combat power. They need to start with some of these managers in charge of maintaining Navy ships. Navy ships are real important, as well as any general or admiral who endorsed this DEI nonsense. All of these people have to go. Anybody involved in the Afghanistan withdrawal, they have to go. So you have to restore accountability in the military. Number 2, you got to make contracting and management reform. So Hegseth can expand hiring as well as firing authorities, update federal regulations on commercial item procurement, and cut onerous bureaucratic red tape. All right. So the GAO, that's the Government Accountability Office, has identified contracting reforms that could save billions across the federal government. That needs to happen. Number 3, cut all non-defense research spending. All non-defense research spending. As Hegseth has advocated before in his book, the military needs to return to a focus on war fighting. That is on lethality. The defense budget is stuffed with non-defense spending, including medical research, questionable research and development spending that goes to white papers at universities that don't result in any programs of record whatsoever. There's even billions that have been spent on turning the entire fleet of non-tactical vehicles in the U.S. Army into EVs. This is absolutely silly. All right, so we need to cut all non-defense research spending. 4th, increase procurement. So the money Hegseth saves from cutting non-defense research spending can be better spent on the purchase of military capabilities, ships, planes, and munitions. The fiscal year, the size of the fleet will shrink as the Navy, or in the next fiscal year, or this fiscal year, I'm sorry. The size of the fleet will shrink as the Navy retires more ships than it built, and cuts orders for some of the precision-guided munitions that we need most to deter China in the Indo-Pacific. So this needs to happen in the next budget. All right, revitalize and reform naval shipbuilding. I think we need to build submarines too, but the shipbuilding industry is beset by problems with shipbuilders that are facing constant delays and cost overruns, and the Department of Defense's joint requirements process is hobbling along the process of ship design. This cannot happen when China is building up their military. This is just insane, and this is crazy. This gentleman understands this because he's a war fighter, and this is all he has in mind. They tried to bash him for comments he made about women in military. He doesn't want standards lowered. Standards should not be lowered for women in the military, especially in combat arms. That is ridiculous. Personally, I don't believe they should be in combat arms in the infantry, but that's a story for another day. But nonetheless, the standards have been lowered over the last decade for women to be able to fill some of these positions. We don't want to see in the military what we just witnessed in Los Angeles with that wokeified Los Angeles Fire Department, a woke mayor, a woke governor. We can't have it. I want to play a video clip. Gabe, I'm going to cut these short, but I just want people to get the gist. This is Senator Markwayne Mullin, clip number 27, please.
Of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see, but in general the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary of Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But you so quickly forget about that, and then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night?
Looks
have
like
any
he's
of you
drunk
guys
now, doesn't
asked
it?
them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know
We can cut it there. The point is that Senator Markwayne Mullin, he called them out on their hypocrisy, because you know it and I know it, and he knew it, and they knew that he knew it, that they come in there drunk as a skunk making votes. He know that these are morally bankrupt people that don't have the moral authority to call Pete Hegseth out on any moral failings. There are also Senator Tim Sheehy asked about what type of military weaponry rounds that were used in firearms. I think he asked that question because he wanted to show that Pete Hegseth knew what he was talking about, but also because Democrats didn't. Also, you had Senator Cotton that talked about Gaza and Israel, and Pete Hegseth was strong. He wants every single member of Hamas dead. We need a war fighter in the DOD, not some woke general. God bless you guys.